Welcome to Now This Is Podcasting. I'm your host, Connor, and I have my co-host, Jaden here. And our producer, McKinnon.
What's up?
And former guest, Calvin.
Thank you for having me on.
And we are starting part 3 of our series on the Lighthouse. And if you thought part 1 and 2 are pretentious, get ready, because we're going into Jungian psychology now.
Yeah. What great way to preface what I have to talk about. It's pretentious to a degree, but it's something that it's just basic narrative structure that you don't really think about. A lot of images are loaded culturally, anyways, and with Jung, these images carry like very specific meanings. And I know we've mentioned like Jung on the podcast before. You know, those few who have listened to any of them.
The many that have.
It's almost like Calvin doesn't talk about anything else but Jungian psychology.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because Robert Eggers is all about, like, he described, like, me and my brother, we were given to our Jungian predilections for creating our archetypes and characters.
I want to watch and review like the first Winnie the Pooh movie and have Calvin be like, well, this is what Jungian would have to say about, like, oh my God, shut up.
Well, that would be great because all of the characters in Winnie the Pooh are based on clinical not psychosis, but like personality, like depression and like it would be perfect.
Yeah.
That's such a great
I
idea.
knew that. I knew that already.
I was being sarcastic, and now we've created a new episode.
That actually sounds like a blast.
For more content in the future.
Ross Christopher Robin.
Yeah, exactly.
Christopher Robin is our damsel in distress archetype.
No.
But the movie Christopher Robin starring Ewan McGregor.
My mistake.
Oh, heck, that's a thing. That came
Yeah.
out.
It made me cry. My eyes out.
Wow,
No way.
okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Dude, good for you.
That's great.
But Lighthouse, though.
But yeah, so we've talked a little bit about archetypes in general, and I haven't given a great description of what they are, but what archetypes are universal primal symbols that represent ideas that are shaped by the whole of humanity within the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious is this large, nebulous thing that then impresses itself on individuals to drive conscious behaviors, and when they act consciously, certain archetypes will manifest depending on the environmental context of the individual. The theory comes from the pervasiveness of certain symbols, characters, story structures that occur throughout history in different cultures. The idea of heroes, maidens, tricksters, flood myths, gender roles, snakes, genitalia, mandalas. And Jung rejected the notion of tabula rasa, that the mind is born blank. He assumed that looking to all of our myths and stories that we can infer that these symbols were innate to humans from birth, and they continue to manifest as recurrent symbols. So thus how we tell our stories as a collective species then becomes how we tell our stories as individuals. And Jung used that line of thinking to help treat his patients. He identified their four main personality archetypes.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
You're on a great ramble here, and I love it. So you bring up Jung a lot. Are there not other kind of psychologists, behaviorists who have impact on how stories are told or why we understand movies certain ways? I just noticed he's probably the one you bring up the most, and I wonder, is there no one else, or is he just done the best job of like laying out these archetypes and kind of why we act the way we are, why we think the way we do, why we develop the way we do? Is he just kind of
the gold standard?
Yeah, is he just kind of the standard, how you compare and how you would implement these into like what we're doing now, like critiquing or analyzing a film or a character?
Or do you just like him?
Or is he just your boy?
No, and I don't know why that is the case, but he is someone that we're taught a lot in film school. I don't know what. So if you think of film as a language that speaks through images and symbols, to come up with a basic language of where symbols mean certain things, then you can say the thing without actual dialogue. So that's why it comes up in so many different things. Is archetypes are really easy ways to visually represent what you're trying to say. Why Jung is the dominant one, I'm not really sure. But there's also like other Freudian ones, like their work.
They were like together for a little bit. And then
for like 13 years. Like they work, I think something like that. They work together a lot. So there's a lot of overlap between their theories and between the symbols that they ascribe. But
and not to like derail what we were talking about, but I I wonder because it gets brought up a lot, and I was like, is there no one else? Like,
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just an agreed upon language that filmmakers use to create their stories.
okay, no, that's
So-
fair. I just kind of wanted a little more
At
background on
least
that.
a,
Yeah.
a lot of them. I'm sure there are other ones that like Aronofsky uses almost entirely biblical draws from biblical references.
Okay.
So like it's not. I don't think his is quite as Jung inspired as just straight up like. Yeah, I have a thing for biblical symbols because he grew up Jewish, and where he goes from there is how he constructs his stories.
Did he do Mother?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh,
We can do
man.
that later. But
Ah, so much.
you're talking about biblical stuff, and I was like, I feel like I think Aronofsky did Mother. But
Yeah,
anyways, we'll get back on track.
absolutely.
Mother is a ridiculous movie.
Oh yeah, it's. But anyways, like so the way he would treat his patients is he would identify their four main personality archetypes: that of the persona, what we show; that of the shadow, which we hide; that of the anima or animus, the opposing gender expression of one's own sex. So anima for men, animus for a woman, and then that of the true self, the I rather than the me. Like if you're into that kind of philosophical distinction, and that encompasses all of the conscious self as well as the unconscious self, the ego and the collective unconscious. So Jung conjectured that bringing all of these elements into harmony would allow his patients to achieve individuation and thus psychic equilibrium, which is really important because when you're talking about the shadow self, the person that you hide, it's generally antagonistic. It's not always like a good thing, but it's something that like guilt and shame, repressed gay sexual feelings, those things weighing on the persona and how it drives one's psychic equilibrium out of balance. So that's why this is so important. So as a psychological tool, it is good for counseling because you can then take an individual and have them see themselves in different aspects. Like how do you identify like in the world, like do you see yourself as more of a hero, and how do you function? Like what do you think that you're really enacting the things that your shadow and your true self are really trying to make you do? Like is everything in line? As objective psychology, it's mostly garbage.
Okay.
It's really more akin to just observations. Like there's never any experimentation. Like there were no clinical trials. A lot of current science has moved on from Jung and Freud for the reason that all of it was armchair psychology. It was just conjecture. I think they hit on some things that are universal, but they have no way of saying that any of this stuff is objective. Like to say that stories are innate to everyone is probably a bit of a stretch. Like you could say that human culture evolved through like stories. Like we exchange stories and information, and that's why stories matter so much to us, and we like those archetypes because they just come up in so many different stories. But to say that it was there because of this like Jung's conjectures tend to be more pseudoscientific and
It's sort
and
of like
religious.
they were innate to a person already, and not something that
Yeah,
was
coming
passed
from
down
like
as much,
coming from like a giant, like you can think of it almost like a spiritual cloud that we all pull information from in a very new age sort of universal like wavelength.
And so then we're taking these ideas and then applying them to these characters, these archetypes that are in the Lighthouse.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's like it's not great like psychology, but they are fantastic narrative tools. Because if we all agree, like the idea of like what a hero embodies, and that's the other part of what's wrong with Jung is heroes can mean different things for different cultures. Like if the culture interprets like how we interpret the swastika now is very different than how it's in Indian culture.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Well,
Well, no, I know exactly what you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, because it's a part of Hinduism, I'm pretty sure.
Or you're saying like the design,
means peace.
not.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
saying the design, not a swastika means
I mean, I'm pretty sure the
a
Nazis
different thing. Yeah.
blatantly stole that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing
Because
is
of what it
how
meant.
yeah, but now how we interpret the swastika is very different than how it would have been before. So it can't be a universal symbol because the culture interprets these signs to the context of today. Like they didn't have innate meaning. Like, and so
Right,
if they
right.
didn't, if they don't have innate meaning, then you're looking at it ass backwards. You're getting too reductionist. So that's the problem with Jung. But like, if we
I
have
think
like
you're
a
right. It's
general
like-
sense of like what a hero
Yeah.
is, like
The archetypes work well because I mean, you need to have some way of knowing what the character is about, and you got your tricksters, your hero, you got your damsel in distress, and everyone knows these characters. And I think when you bring up Jung, it's a good way to kind of give a good way of assigning what these characters actually mean and what they're about. I think we kind of know what it is because you just have experienced life and you've watched film and you've read stories and you kind of inherently know. But this is like more of a gives a better assignment to like what they actually are.
yeah, and how you lead expectations too, because if you set up somebody as a hero and then they don't conform to that archetype, then you have a really interesting tension between in your narrative about who is this character and what are they really doing then.
Omni-Man.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen?
Invincible.
Have you guys seen
I
Invincible?
haven't yet. I need to.
So good.
No, this is all I've been doing.
We plugged it earlier. I think in maybe our first episode we plugged Invincible. Oh man, that's really good. You guys, it's a great animated series.
Calvin has been watching The Lighthouse for over a
Calvin's
month.
Calvin's watched Lighthouse every day leading up to this episode.
Just 2 times.
He's
but I've been-
becoming more
I've been-
powerful every time he watches it,
Yeah.
though.
His power level is over 9,000 now.
Yeah, that's what going to film
Not even my
school.
final
Yeah,
form.
that's
We're
what.
approaching his final form.
Yeah, that's what going to film school does for you. It unlocks your limiter.
He's just growing stronger by the day. All right, so
All right, so back to phalluses.
Penis.
That's, I mean, like, it's explicit in the script that the lighthouse stands tall on the island like an erect penis. It's not a secret.
I mean, could you imagine if the lighthouse was lying down like a flaccid penis?
There's actually a great in the montage. I don't know if you remember. There's a shot of the lighthouse from the side view, and then they twist the
Whoa,
image.
really?
Yeah, so that the lighthouse
Oh
is
my
pointing
God, I know
straight
you're
up,
talking
really
just
clever.
like
Okay.
yeah. So there you go. It was flaccid at one point. You
Yes.
smart cookie.
We
You don't
can.
even know how much you
I know big words,
you
flaccid.
subconsciously you picked up on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have something? Does your shadow self have something to express?
I'm repressing a lot of things right now. I'm repressing my feelings about lighthouses. I didn't even know that.
Your deep-seated feelings toward lighthouses.
But yeah, let's just run through all of the things that are phalluses in this film, because it's almost everything. The lighthouse, the logs, in that dream sequence where
Right.
that's
uh,
meant to connote penises.
Which, real quick on the logs, I thought that was interesting the first time I saw it, because when you see that is like that's like the first 15 minutes of the movie. That's really really short. I mean, it happens really early on, and you don't find out that he's a lumberjack until far later.
Yeah.
And then I like connected the dots. I thought that was clever that they show that really early.
Yeah, and that's important. That scene, we'll get into more detail about it, but that one's really important.
Yeah.
The foghorn.
Is phallic in nature.
Oh yes, and
How?
so okay,
Penises don't make noise.
but no, it's
I've
not.
had one my whole life. Not a peep.
I mean, maybe
Crazy. It's like,
maybe, maybe you're just not trying hard enough.
every time you come, it's
This is why I don't have roommates anymore.
All right. So elaborate on the foghorn, please.
Okay, so the foghorn, especially, like, apparently nobody remembers it, but when he is cleaning it, he's sitting inside of it and scrubbing it.
okay.
That's like that's the pipe he's like sitting in.
That's the
foghorn.
That's the foghorn.
I thought it was just like a duct or
Yeah.
some kind of a sewage line.
just out of nowhere.
I didn't. Okay, I must not know enough about foghorns because I didn't know that was what it was.
I mean, you just were telling me that you've had a foghorn your whole life, and
Yeah.
you don't even know how it works.
I'm a faker, dude. No, okay. I guess I didn't know that's what it was.
So he is sitting in the foghorn, scrubbing it, and it's actually very similar. You think about how Earlier in the film, he was told, if I want you to pull up every nail and suckle off the rust of every single one of them, make until they shine like a sperm whale's pecker, and he is literally scrubbing a penis.
Okay.
And the only reason, and the greater reason that I know
When you
it is
said
a phallus.
foghorn, I thought you meant the sound the foghorn
Me
makes.
too, as
That's what I
well,
thought
yeah.
when you said
I'm
that.
sorry. Yeah, the
Yeah.
actual apparatus.
The physical piece. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes more sense to me now.
And so, and I know for a fact that he has seen the scene I'm thinking of. But there is a scene in Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin from, I want to say 1915.
Yeah, we've all seen that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why.
Very
yeah,
fresh.
yeah. Link in the thumbnail for all those who may not know.
It's only 106 years old.
But there's a Russian film was really influential in early film history, and there is a shot that has of a cannon dripping lubricant to signify phallic power. That was exactly what I thought of when I saw it, and I've seen interviews of him talking about Eisenstein's Soviet montage theory, so we know that he's seen this film. So he's drawing on old film imagery that connotes penises.
How much
are
how-
all guns dicks?
It's a really big part for some filmmakers. They
Yeah.
will use it as like, because it's power. Like, they have power over a man.
Well,
over,
I almost feel like in not film, like in real
life, yeah.
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 That's kind of the way that.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
think about
You could think
that's
about,
why
when I mean in movies especially, or like just in real life, where they're like they'll put like a gun in someone's mouth,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, it's
Yeah.
like the ultimate form of like power over someone.
Yeah.
And it's
And
very
that's
it's very
Can't bite
yeah.
that off,
it's-
can you?
It's
Yeah.
very sexual. It's very
And-
phallic.
Yeah, and exactly, and those are the reasons that Freud and Jung believed what they did. You could see those things, how they represented these what they thought were really important bodily functions, of how penises and vaginas function as to power and dominance within societies and cultures. So
It's just wild to me that this gets like movies. To me, at least for a long time, I was like, I just want to be entertained by a movie, and I just want to sit down and watch something and see maybe something blow up, or a nice romance, a good relationship. And then as I've gotten older, I watch movies and I'm just like, oh my god,
Everything's a dig.
this is not about, like, there's so much more going on. There's certain movies, there's just so much more going on than
yeah.
a relationship or some dynamic between characters or an action scene or something like that. It's like,
Well, this is like a romance because of all the repressed feelings, really.
It is in an Oedipal sense. You could think of Winslow trying to earn the favor of Wake, who would be like a father figure. You're not the governor. You're not a copper. You sure as shit ain't my father.
I thought, okay, so I actually put a note about that. I picked up on that because he makes a point to be like, you're not my father, even though he's like, he wants him to kind of be a father. Like,
Yeah, he wants his approval.
yeah, because we talked about the book and everything, like the ledger or whatever, and like he wants the approval, and when he realizes he's not getting it, he's like, he's hurt by that, and so he wants to be approved of, and when he brings up, he's like, you're not my father. It's like, well, you kind of want him to be though, like.
Yeah, exactly. And when he gets down on his knees and he's begging, like, just let me see the light.
Yeah, it's there's so much in this movie.
Yeah,
There's
and
so
that's
much
like,
in this movie.
yeah, exactly. Like, you could get to like a normal person or someone that just enjoys watching movies and just for what's there, get to part 2 and be, wow, that was a deep film. There was a lot there. We talked about power dynamics. We talked about supernatural sense and like, but there is the way some people craft their films is so much deeper even than that. Because I mean, we have, like, the other big thing is like just keys. The idea of keys in this film. Keys unlock the lighthouse. Keys unlock the dresser, and what's housed behind both of those, but the light that he wants to see, the logbook that he wants the approval of, and he like.
So those things are vaginas.
No, they're penises,
No, the keys are penises.
and the keyholes are vaginas.
Yes. And then wait, so what I'm thinking of is the logbook as a vagina.
No, the logbook isn't a vagina. It's more of just a motif of because it doesn't hold any specific like object representation. You know, like all of these things are phalluses because they're also shaped like phalluses. The logbook is just a recurrent motif representing his approval for Winslow. But you have keys. So he so keys and knives. One of my favorite scenes is he has stolen the dinner knife, right? He goes and tries to unlock the light, and it breaks. So he goes and unlocks the cabinet to get the logbook, and it's not there. And then he goes to steal the logbook from Wake, but then sees his keys, and then ultimately holds the knife to his neck. And so you have all of these crazy symbols. Like, what does he really want? What is he aiming for? And which way does he want to take it? Does he want to earn it? Does he want to, just kill him and be done with it?
I don't think he knows at all.
Yeah, and exactly. You see his hesitancy between all of what these objects represent for him.
Doesn't he say like awkward way to wear your shoes?
I think he
He
says
does
Queer way.
queer way.
Another thing that the like language of how it reinforces that androeroticism.
Yeah.
I think that's just a word that they used to say, and it
used to,
isn't.
yeah.
But
used
it
to
also
mean a
means
deeper
something
meaning.
now too.
Yeah, but they're not filming this for people with today's connotations. They're filming it with 100 years ago language.
They're trying to be
For today, though.
Yeah,
No, but
that's the thing.
So that's what I'm saying about what we were saying about having the Willem Dafoe on the dog leash.
Mhm.
Nowadays, that means something because people do things in the bedroom or whatever.
I mean, it meant things like that back then
I don't
too.
think it did 130 years ago. I don't think that there were people dominating their significant other
I
with a dog
do
leash.
believe that they
I
were. for
disagree.
sure,
Absolutely.
Were
But
they?
I get what you're saying. So it's like kind of, I don't want, like maybe like double speak. Like, so yeah, it is language that was used
It
in
seems
the period,
accurate to use
but
language like
but
that.
language also means something today, and I think
they're
you're
using
supposed to
it
take
that
it.
way, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're supposed to
it's-
take something away from
It's
that.
possible
Yeah.
that is also intentional because people nowadays are going to interpret language a certain way
Right,
because
right.
of today's culture. Sure.
Yeah.
It's just something.
I do agree.
something I
I think it's it's period accurate, but it also means something now, and you're watching the movie now, so you're supposed to kind of take it a certain way,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and then another great image is that of the axe. The axe that
It's like my favorite scene. of
yeah,
fucking
the
movie.
the axe crush it that breaks the boat. Don't leave me. Destroys the boat, and then he chases after him, almost like a Keystone Cops like side-scrolling like goofy animated cartoon. Like he's hobbling after him with an axe over him, and he says, "You're neglecting or abandoning your post or whatever," and then slams the axe in the table, and then that axe is what he uses to attack him with later when he hits his arm, and it's also what kills him, much like earlier in the Hark scene where he's talking about let his foul befinned arm come down and strike you in the gullet and burst you, and that's how he kills Wake. Like, so you have all of these power dynamics represented in phallic shaped objects.
I do like agree with Jaden. I think probably visually my favorite scene is the little chase when he's like he's like hobbling after him with the axe, and Winslow's running away, and it's just like that side scrolling thing. I think it's like my favorite,
It's
visually
awesome.
my favorite scene in the movie. I was like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
man, this is like, I was like, this is really good. Like, it's really cool looking, and it's kind of a different, because there's a lot of like still, the camera's very still most of the movie, and so this one is like, I'm assuming some kind of track moving along with them, and so I was like, it was dynamic. It was different than a lot of the shots in the movie, and that's why I was like, when it popped up, I was like, oh, this is cool to see because it's kind of different than how the rest of the movie was made.
Yeah, and it's very. If you look at it, it's really grainy. That one shot is it feels out of focus, whereas everything else is very crystal clear. But yeah, I do love that one a lot.
Well, it was raining during that scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the storm had come in and
Right.
the wind had changed, and
I
they
just
were storming
assumed
up,
that's why it was grainy.
Yeah, and it probably was, but it's the only shot like that.
Okay.
Because even like when they were at the boat, it wasn't as grainy as that.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
still just cool. Again, I have already talked about how authentic this movie feels. Like it I feel like this movie could have been released, back when they did black and white movies, and it would
Oh,
totally fit
100%.
in. It would
100%.
absolutely fit in.
Absolutely. And like that, I mean, especially like I actually watched Ingmar Bergman's Seventh Seal on Sunday, which is all black and white. I want to say it was 1957. He also does Persona, which came out in 60.
These are movies that
67 as
everyone
well.
watches.
These
Yeah,
some
but
deep
regularly.
cuts.
yeah, but like very weird black and white films,
I thought you
very
were-
representational. Like
Yeah. I
thought
this,
you were
it would have
just
fit
saying, like,
right in that era.
French
Oh, okay.
dishes or something like that. I was like, is this food?
Now Ingmar Bergman was a famous.
That sounds delicious.
Swedish. Yeah, he was Swedish. So there you go.
I'll have the Ingmar Bergman. It sounds very tasty.
I
It's
think
very
that you're
savory.
making
Served
up
at
all of
IKEA.
these.
Sorry, you just bring up these things sometimes. I'm like, no one knows what you're
I
fucking
don't-
talking
and I-
about.
Yeah, and I don't like if they want to look it up, it's fine. I was just gonna mention that they're like.
No,
you know,
I love
older,
it.
like,
Well,
I
I,
wanted
I
to
mean, what
keep
you're saying
going
is they
with
fit in with those movies, the movies
Yeah.
that we're talking
Yeah.
about now, which is, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I love
it.
references.
But yeah, and so you have, everything's a fallacy. I mean, think about too when he was painting the lighthouse with the whitewash.
Oh,
You're earning high marks in my logbook. And
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
it's a whole visual of basically him just actually another great one is if you'll notice throughout the film, Wake is smoking a pipe and Winslow is smoking a cigarette, but there is one night where they've switched and now they're smoking each other's
Holy fuck.
pieces.
Oh my God, 69.
They're just smoking
They're
pipe dick.
69.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. It's
Oh my
implied that they are smoking each other, that they have sucked each other off because
Wow,
now
okay.
they've switched who's they're smoking.
Wow.
Okay, I have to be honest. It just sounds to me. I didn't get any of that. It sounds to
No,
me
I
like
wouldn't expect you to.
it's.
No, I mean, like this
Wow,
stuff. Is,
Calvin.
I wouldn't expect most people to get it
Sure, yeah.
unless you've like literally you have to be able to deconstruct
Yeah.
films and then see them from a Jungian perspective. It has to be specifically that way.
Yeah.
You could look at tons of film critiques and never come up with these things. But
So I get your rationale behind all of your reasons for the symbols of the fallacies, phalluses.
yeah,
I get all
Say dicks, dude. It's
all the
fine.
the PPs. All of the
Ooh.
all the symbols and stuff. I get why you're saying that. To me, I didn't get that. And it really just sounds like you're reading really, really, really deep into it. Because to me, a lighthouse is just a lighthouse.
yeah. And normally I would say that, but
Mhm.
when
But
I
it's
heard him say-
intentional.
it's intentional because
Yeah.
I've even heard him express how me and my brother Robert Eggers, referring to writing the script with his brother Max. We tend towards our Jungian archetypes when we create characters, and when you're that deep into it, this stuff comes out intentionally.
He said
And I think
comes out like the closet.
we've said earlier that you can watch this movie and just appreciate it on a surface level, where it's you just really like the acting in it, or
Yeah.
you like set pieces that take place, or I mentioned there's some really long takes and really good speeches that the characters have, and you can just take this movie and look at it like that and be like, this is good because of these performances. But I also think that if you get more background, like Calvin was talking about, if you listen to interviews about the director and kind of why he made this movie, and then you really get Calvin's not wrong. This movie's about penises. It absolutely is.
Yeah. I mean, I
And it's just-
didn't listen to all
Yeah.
the interviews, and if that's true, then that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and he doesn't say a lot of it explicitly. He just talks about Jung, and when I hear things like that, and he's talking about Soviet montage theory or anything Eisenstein, I know where he's drawing his inspiration from because I've studied all of those things. I've seen weirder movies than that even, and so once you understand that common basis of language, these aren't really that we can get into weird interpretations later, but these ones right on the surface, these are 100% intentional.
Yeah, and I don't think it stops you from enjoying this movie if you didn't. Like I said,
I
you were saying
enjoyed
like
this movie plenty, and
Yeah.
I didn't catch any of
yeah,
that.
you don't need to like
I don't think
because
the
it- because it
penises would
functions-
make me enjoy the movie more.
Yeah, because it
I think
functions
you'll
in the
enjoy it
unconscious.
more now.
Yeah, but it functions in the unconscious. Like that's why we don't need. It doesn't need to be said explicitly. Is because we more or less understand
It's
what
all-
they mean.
yeah.
At least that's the idea behind you.
I needed it told to me because my subconscious was asleep at the wheel.
Maybe you just don't know what your subconscious is thinking.
So
I don't know. With a name like Papa Dragon, I imagine you know what you're doing.
So, Jaden, did you when you watched the movie, did you think everything was a penis?
I did not think anything was a penis besides the penises.
That's a
well,
direct
that's weird because
answer.
there are no
All right.
penises in
Okay,
this
the
movie.
dude is jerking his gherkin
I get-
multiple
okay,
times.
Okay, I understand
Yeah.
that. I
You
mean,
don't
like,
see
I mean,
the
there's not a
dick,
literal
but
penis in this
yeah.
movie one time.
Well,
Yeah.
apparently there's a lot.
Yeah, the self-abuse scenes are prevalent in
Yeah,
this
and
movie.
it actually probably would have been easier if they did make it NC-17 because there is a literal match. He described it as a juvenile match-on-action shot of the Lighthouse to Robert Pattinson's erect penis.
Oh God. Okay, I'm glad that's
Oh,
not.
Yeah, I
in it.
did not want to see his
Yeah.
dick.
I'm
so
glad that's
happy
not
that
in
didn't
it.
happen either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a tell don't show moment. I don't want to see that.
it's
I'm
more
sorry.
more fun facts rather
Yeah.
than like explicit imagery that
yeah,
you're looking for.
I would be because then at this point, then now everyone you'd pick up on that. Oh, this is all about wieners.
Yeah, then it's in
I'd
your
like-
face and it's not
yeah.
as like subtle.
Yeah, I'm glad that scene didn't take place in this movie.
But
Let's
yeah,
leave
so
that out, please.
yeah, and then to the obvious counterpart to penises are vaginas, and there's plenty in here. I mean, the most overt one is I think Jaden's favorite part of the film.
Oh, the mermaid vagina.
Yeah, so
mean-
a little fun fact about that. So, again, this is just an attention to detail thing that I think when you're watching the movie, you don't really realize this is happening. They researched shark labia to figure out how to make the genitalia for the sirens that
Yeah.
are in the movie. I just
I
think
mean-
it's funny that it's like they decided they want to put it on like the front of the siren, and they wanted it to be modeled after like a shark and everything. I just fun little things like that. It's like
Yeah.
who even takes the time to like let's figure out how we want this to look.
I mean, it's a solid 2 seconds of the entire fucking screen
Yeah, and
is a vagina
and
of
you
a
know,
mermaid.
they
And
had-
like, I don't know about any of you, but since I was a child, I have been wondering what the fuck that looked like. Now we get to know.
now we know.
Yeah.
What a shark labia
No,
looks like,
what
or
a
just-
mermaid vagina looks like. You don't think I wanted to bang the shit out of Ariel, dude?
Oh my god. But I just think it's funny. It's got to be some like intern or someone. They were like, "Okay, I need you to look at 1,000 images of shark labia to figure out."
Yeah, draw
how-
us up some concept
He's like,
art.
and then we need to figure out how to design this.
I mean, he just dives right in that thing too, man. And I
Yeah.
just don't know if I would, buddy.
And it's so interesting thinking of mermaids as symbols because I mean I don't know if anybody's just think of the Starbucks logo is based on a mermaid and it's split tail. That was actually how mermaids were drawn pre-Victorian era.
I did see an interview where Edgar said he did that on purpose. He wanted them to be like the split tail ones. He even referenced the Starbucks logo in like an interview he did.
Yeah, exactly. And so what happened was Victorian England came around and they turned into a giant culture of prudes. So we had to seal up those legs so no sex was happening with the fish people.
Yeah.
And so they just continued with the modern rendering of mermaid and then just slapped a shark vagina on it.
Yeah, that's literally what they did. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then obviously for every key there's a keyhole. Thinking of the oar in the cistern, even the burial plot. Thinking about how, like you were saying, how the power dynamic shifted. He was digging his own grave
I
by
thought,
trying to
yeah,
control him.
that's
It's a
in-
vagina.
That's in part 2 where it's like they dig up the liquor because the rations ran out, and then
Also, they're storing booze in the vagina.
yeah.
Yeah,
Which
And
is
so
like,
yeah.
honestly, ladies out there, if you could just put something up there every once in a while, surprise me.
like complimentary
God,
snack,
stop.
Fucking pop a Jolly Rancher out of there.
A
It's
mint
nice.
or something like
Yeah,
a
like-
Mentos.
like a bag of airline peanuts.
That's disgusting.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for your in-flight meal.
Oh my god. I want to not talk about this anymore.
That's the worst.
I hate this. Oh my god.
So I was gonna say about the mermaid. We discussed the suppressed homosexual feelings between the two, and the mermaid to me, when Robert Pattinson is fantasizing about the mermaid and banging her and stuff. The reason why I figure that they aren't having repressed sexual feelings for each other is because they're alone on this island, and they're just happy to have physical contact from anyone. Because Robert Pattinson is fantasizing about this mermaid, they're getting a few drinks and they're hanging out, dancing slowly with each other. That's why I didn't think it was repressed feelings. They're the only two on this island, and they need some physical contact.
So
is how
less
I
like
interpreted
homosexual, just more physical.
I
in
think that's
nature.
not I think that's not a wrong interpretation. I agree that you could take that away from those scenes for sure. I don't think that you're wrong for thinking that. I don't think that. I think that the point being conveyed by the filmmaker wasn't that. But again, we've talked about like there's an interaction between the filmmaker and the film, and then there's your interaction with the film.
Totally.
And those two things can be different, and
Yeah.
you can draw whatever you want from that. I still think I think when he's fantasizing about the mermaid and stuff, I think it's because he doesn't want to fantasize about Willem Dafoe.
Oh, really?
So I think he.
I actually have something to say
If
to
it's
that.
Okay, well,
repressed,
then-
then he wouldn't.
Well, okay,
fantasize.
that's what I'm saying. So it's like okay, so
He's
there
intentionally
are
fantasizing.
plenty of people who are like they stay closeted and they carry on heterosexual lives
Mhm.
even though they're homosexual and to me I thought a lot because there's even parts where he's trying to masturbate to the mermaid and it's like not working, and so to me it's like he like there's some level of his subconscious that he knows like this isn't really what he wants to get off to.
Okay, yeah, that's
And so
interesting.
he's trying so hard to do this with the mermaid, and it's not working. And
Yeah.
so it's like what he really wants is to let those repressed feelings out. That's
Okay.
what I thought is like because there's I think there's like maybe 2 scenes where he tries to masturbate and it's like doesn't go.
Yeah, he like throws the mermaid down on the ground
Yeah.
and breaks it and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what I think that, and I think Connor is right, what I think that the mermaid represents is his anima. I think it's his warped sense of his sexual desire manifested as a woman. There's a line that I thought was really interesting at some point in the film. He was talking about Wake's wife, and he says, "Do you feel shame lying with a woman?" And Wake says to him, "I ain't ashamed of nothing."
Yeah.
And and then they both laugh, and it was more like they were just laughing off, this a really poignant thought that he does feel like this isn't right. Like the charm is a manifestation
like
of
a
his
fake laugh, like they're like yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, the charm is a real representation of a manifestation of his anima and his warped sense of this
Can
is.
you explain
these
what that means, anima?
So the anima, that's what in my little spiel about Jungian archetypes. So you have the persona that we show, the shadow that we hide.
Oh shoot, you said this already.
Yeah,
I
and
need to
then-
be reminded because I'm dumb.
I took notes, so Connor
So
needs
what
to
is
catch
it?
up.
So what is it?
I just wrote down those terms: persona, shadow self. I'm still waiting for you to define it, but I wrote it down.
I keep
Okay.
thinking of enema, and I know that's not.
Dude, I was gonna say the same thing. I was like,
Yeah.
anima is not.
Yeah.
So you have the anima and the animus, and they are the corresponding opposite sexual or gender expression.
Right.
Of
Okay.
a
Okay, yeah,
person.
yeah,
Right. Right.
So
okay.
so to a man, you have the anima, which is embodied in a woman, and that is what I think is the mermaid is in this case. It is his anima represented as a woman and expressing his sexual desire, but it's warped. That's why it looks like a mermaid, because it's not right. It's supernatural. It's kind of weird, and
It's
that.
definitely weird.
And that's why he gets scared having sex with it, or when he first finds it, and breaks the trinket and all that. Like, it's not working because it's warped, because it's not what he actually wants. That's why I think Connor is right, and it's just that deeper psychological reasoning behind it. But
I mean, so honestly, I was on board with Skeeto on this in the beginning, and the more that you guys have talked about the repression of their homosexual natures, I realized, before you had brought it up, of him tossing down the mermaid in almost frustration. When he's
Right,
trying
right.
To
And he
fucking spank
stabs
his
it.
baloney. Yeah.
and that's why
And
he
he
starts
says
going
he
crazy.
breaks the fucking curse or something like that to Willem Dafoe, whatever like that. But Yeah,
He's
I think that
denying-
maybe he
yeah.
just wants some dick, dude, and he
He's
just doesn't want to
denying-
accept that.
Yeah,
that's
he
kinda
is
cool,
denying his
yeah.
anima, and
That's
when
kind
you
of a-
stab it, like that's why he's not in psychic
Stabs it with his
equilibrium.
freaking kitchen knife
With
that
his
we
knife.
learned earlier is a dick.
Exactly.
So it's kind of cool to have
Oh
these.
snap! Wow.
It's cool to have these discussions while I do this because so we kind of go into these episodes where we don't really discuss the movie beforehand. Like we all kind of want to hear each other's reactions, like kind of in the moment, and then discuss them. And so it's kind of cool that like we were talking about like, yeah, this movie is phallic in nature, and Jane's like, no, it's not. And now like you're kind of like, oh, okay, now
Yeah,
I get what
everything's
you're
a dick,
saying.
Yeah, everything's a penis.
so it's-
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to, and I feel like that's how a lot of people are when you discuss movies with your friends.
You
You're
know,
like,
every time I watch Michael Bay films, like, oh, there's nothing but dicks and explosions.
A building in a Michael Bay movie is just a dick.
But it's just cool. It's just cool. I just like having these conversations with you guys. It's cool to be able to record it and put it on, and then we kind of figure out along the way like, oh, okay, I didn't see that, and you kind of glean more from the people around you. I think it's cool. I just love
think
doing
it's
this so
awesome.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last like big one would be the light. You know, obviously, the light represents a lot of things, but I would say I actually want to hear your interpretation of what you think the light is.
It's a fucking light.
Okay.
Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Moving next.
I'm like seriously like I think that like at the end when he like burns himself on it or whatever, I think that he's just losing his fucking mind and that there's a fire in there.
So, but it still has like obvious representation to him.
Oh,
as a
okay,
character. So
yes.
what do you think it is?
So I think that it's like something that's coveted. It's like something that Wake is trying to keep from Winslow, and I think it is more about like kind of like the psychological warfare that he's playing on Winslow. I think it has to me, I always thought the light was just something to like have power over him and be like, you'll never have this, like I'm the keeper of the light, this is my job, you won't get here. And I know that there is like some kind of mythological background to this. I know there's like the Prometheus myth that like plays a role in this story, and the first time I watched this I didn't know that, and the second time I watched it I did know the myth, and so it like played a bigger role. But just like on first take, I just thought it was like, I thought it was more of a psychological thing, like how can he like hold something over his head, like you'll never get here, you'll never have this, and he messes with like Winslow's like experience as far as like time is. He tries to trick Winslow into thinking he did things he didn't do. He can't have the light, he can't do this, he can't do that, he's bad at his job. And so to me I just thought it was more like another way for him to like have the upper hand in like their power dynamic. I didn't really take any more like, because the light to me is like vague, and so I didn't really see a lot of like symbolic nature in it or anything like that. I just kind of thought it was just something that he had for like power.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of points I agree with you on that. I mean, I kind of saw it as like a carrot on a stick making a dog run or a rabbit run, doing whatever he...
Carrots are like donkeys. Why would a dog chase
I-
a carrot?
I
Sorry.
give Luna carrots every single day.
Sorry, I'm derailing your point.
It's fine. It's
I've never
fine.
seen a dog chase a carrot.
Luna loves carrots, and that's why I bring it up.
Okay.
But it's like I kind of thought of it as like a way for him for Wake to make Winslow do all of the work. He's like, hey, you'll eventually get here at some point. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is.
Because he does say that. He's like,
Yeah.
you're a wiki in the making.
Yes,
He
and
does
he's
say
like,
that, yeah.
if you keep doing this, you'll eventually be able to get up here. And he makes it seem like it's something that's way more than what it is by being up there all the time, like almost like he's addicted to it. When I think he's just fucking lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
And it makes it seem like it's something he can attain.
Yes.
I like that. I like that idea, especially talking about how like he's like, oh, you could do this job. He's like, someday you'll get your own lighthouse
Yeah.
or something like that.
You know,
Yeah.
he's talking shit about him in his book the whole time.
Yeah.
I had a hard time trying to figure out what the metaphor of the light was. I was watching it and all I could think about was Pulp Fiction and like the briefcase and like what's in the briefcase.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I was just watching. I was like,
I think that's a very
That's
good
a good-
point.
the lighthouse.
I think that's an
What's-
excellent
what's in the light?
comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, like necessary ambiguity. One of my favorite things about the light is the way it's visually represented throughout the film. Like you have this one shot where Winslow is at just outside of the house, and he's looking up at the light, and he sees a naked image of Defoe. Or,
Yeah, like the silhouetted
yeah,
way.
the silhouette, like of the light passing, and then cuts back to him, and the light keeps passing over Winslow's face. And then when you cut back up, Wake is fully clothed and steps out onto the little roost.
Yeah.
And then how that mirrors the hypnos shot where the light extends out of Wake's eyes and sees Winslow.
Does that shot come after Winslow has said that he's not Winslow? He's
Yes, because he turns over the body.
right, and so
Because now he
yeah.
sees him.
Right. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
so
like he's figuring out this is your true self. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's these psychic elements coming, like the shadow self, being discovered,
Right.
and it's that light coming and seeing him. And I just thought that's such a great
Yeah.
visual
I
representation.
just love that. I love like you could pause on that scene. I just love that still. It's so good.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a very well done shot.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think that's how I interpret the light. It's the thing is like we'll get to myth interpretation later.
And speaking of myth interpretations, I think that's a good thing for us to tackle in our next part. So we're gonna wrap this one up now, and I just want to thank everyone for listening. This is podcasting. I'm your host Connor, and I got my co-host Jaden, and our producer McKinnon,
What's up?
and former guest Calvin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening.